继 Apple Pay 正式在台湾上线之后，其实不仅这种线上支付、线上信贷等等，这种所谓的 FinTech 金融科技越来越成为风潮。各家有哪些成功的案例？目前在金融机构他们正在做什么呢？今天关键对话为您访问到星展银行创新长，叫做尼尔克洛斯。这个执行长呢，听听他的看法，金融业到底要如何拥抱数位浪潮带来的改变？
关键时刻掌握关键对话。你好，我是林莹。FinTech 金融科技这个名词已经成为新显学，科技加速金融服务的效率，为金融业带来的冲击可能是威胁，也可能是机会。为您邀请到的是星展银行创新长 Neil Cross， 请他为我们谈谈金融服务带来的转变，以及银行业转型的策略。Hello, Neil.
Yeah, well, it's a great honor to be on the show. Thank you. And ni hao, Taiwan.
When I view your profile, I noticed that you didn't really have banking experience before DBS. So could you share with us that when you were appointed to be the Chief Innovation Officer of DBS, how did you approach it that you have to introduce rather new innovation acts and also the concept to the bank?
I actually think it's a massive advantage that I wasn't in finance before. I come from various different backgrounds, technology, startups, innovation. And so having a fresh pair of eyes on such an industry like finance meant that we found different solutions. And so, you know, a few things we put in place was in the innovation group was not to hire bankers. We took a deliberate decision, but also we decided not to hire technology people. I wanted very creative and driven and caring staff who would help the bank to realize their full potential.
And you are already in this position of CIO for more than 3 years. Last year, you've won the globally title of the most disruptive CIO at the Talent Unleashed Awards. So you successfully built up the innovation group from scratch. Could you talk about a bit more that what is the biggest challenge you face on so far?
Self-limitation. And so many people, we all get it, I get it myself, you know, we think of doing something very ambitious or very scary, and immediately a little voice in our head says, oh, we can't be number one. And that's very difficult. The response I say to people now is, well, why don't you search in Google to say if somebody said you couldn't do it? If they haven't said you couldn't do it, why didn't you do it? And it's that self-limitation around ambition, which is kind of really driven on us by society, is one of the biggest issues that we see. And so when we first started at DBS, we want DBS to be the world's most innovative bank. That's the mission. A lot of people said, we can't do it, we can't be number one. But when you drill into it, there's no actual kind of fact or proof behind that on why we can't be the world's most innovative bank.
So one of your job is to encourage your team.
Yes, yeah, and to inspire them. I mean, the 4 things that I give to my team, which I think are incredibly important. Firstly, is to give them protection. You know, if you want a high-performing team who are going to take calculated risks and push the envelope, occasionally they're going to make a mistake. They need to know that their leader is going to back them up 100%. Secondly, is to inspire them. You know, to inspire them to work at a higher cause. So rather than thinking about, hey, DBS wants to work with students, the higher cause is we want to reinvent, you know, education. The third thing is obviously around freedom. And so there's jobs that my team need to complete to satisfy the bank. The rest of the time they have freedom to come up with their own concepts for programs or innovations and be able to bring that up to me, and we can then look at implementing them. And the fourth thing that I give them is really education. I've done lots of different jobs, all from DJing, designing fish tanks, writing software, building hotels. I've done a lot of stuff. And so I've learned a lot through that, teaching Kung Fu and Tai Chi, where I get a lot of my learnings actually from in the world of business. And so to educate them as much as I can.
So let's talk about innovation and invention. I've heard you saying that the innovation group doesn't really invent things. So in this case, how do you do innovation in the bank?
Yeah, that's right, because it's very different from every other innovation group. Innovation groups tend to be essentially build products. They spend a lot of time, some of them are very nice and cool products, but if you have a siloed unit who are just doing innovation, the rest of the organization does not change. Now, we are seeing already mass disruption in many different industries. Our view is when disruption's happening, you have no choice. You can either let the disruption happen to you in a way that you didn't want, or you can curate the change of disruption.
Let's talk about FinTech. It's like the buzzword that probably keep taking the center stage this year. So do you see FinTech a big threat to traditional banking?
I've never seen it as a threat. Actually, I've seen it as a great opportunity. Changed how regulators think about innovation, which is great. So now regulators are talking not just to banks and insurers, they're talking to startups, to tech companies, even to retailers, which is good for everyone. Secondly, they're teaching banks, what it is to create a great, engaging customer experience and how to do things differently. And then thirdly, they're partnering with banks, and so banks now have a much wider field of potential partnerships. But the important thing, it's all about the client. And so if fintechs are producing things that our customers love, then we either need to replicate that, or we need to partner, preferably partner with that fintech to bring joy to our customers' lives.
But with more and more fintech startups emerging, we could say that customers are actually quite well accepting to these alternative service providers, such as the robot advisors, and also other applications that may help banks or also put bank under pressure. So how would bank reposition itself to this kind of digital revolution?
You think about payments, I don't think anyone really cares about payments from a customer perspective. Yeah, they want them quick, they want them cheap, they want them easy. But if you look at the full landscape, no customer wants to go to 20 different apps to do finance. Now imagine none of those talk to each other. And so you're using one for your wealth, but it's not talking to the one that looks after your savings, not talking to the one where you do your payments. And I think what customers want, they want a single experience, but they just want it, a lot smarter and quicker and more engaging for them as well. So as a finance company, I think it's very much we should be focusing on our core and the stuff where we protect the customer money. And then we look for partnerships then to improve the customer experience. But the customer at least then still keeps the single view, but also gets a much better experience.
FinTech developments in Taiwan are now more focused on online money transfers and also e-payments. But other sectors like peer-to-peer lendings or blockchain are growing quite slow. So would you give us some suggestions that how Taiwanese banks could probably grab the opportunity?
Taiwan's made an amazing start so far. The regulators are doing a great job here, the government's doing a great job. I think the banks really need to step up a bit more. What I'm not seeing, for example, is a lot of fintech accelerators. I'm not seeing a huge amount of fintechs partnering with banks. That's very much for the bank to step up and do that. So hopefully this year we're going to see more startup accelerators, more startups working in banks, and hopefully more chief innovation officers from the world of tech company in there as well to kind of stimulate that growth. But I think it started very well. Hopefully this year is going to be the year where we're really going to see fintech boom inside of Taiwan.
Thank you, Neil. 全球低利环境之下，金融业获利的速度越来越慢，再加上网络跟行动科技改变了民众的消费还有理财习惯，金融数位化创新势在必行。善用合作外部新创团队的力量，或许能够成为金融银行业转型参考的方向。
的确 ，FinTech 金融科技的发展全球趋势，银行不想被取代，甚至被淘汰，转型势在必行。希望星展，这就是新加坡市值最大的星展银行，他们的经验跟案例，能够提供给您不同面向的观察视野。